Hello and welcome to Nomo Momo, the home of the happy apostate. This is a very exciting show for me tonight because I have two of the most quality guests that one could ever ask for. You're going to absolutely love them, and you'll see why I love them so much. Both of them have been guests on my show previously, and when the subject came up of what we're going to be discussing, I couldn't think of anybody who would be better to discuss this with than my co-host and my guest. My co-host tonight is Samantha. She is the mother of a trans child, and she's very active in the LGBTQ community and a proponent for their rights and fighting for them all the time, which I greatly admire. I kind of want to show you a little bit of a video just to give you an idea of what she's like, what her personality is like, and then we'll bring her on, and then we'll introduce you to our guest.
This is bullshit that everybody needs to know about. Mormon Church has come up with some big thing arguing to the Supreme Court transgender people should not be granted protected legal status because it infringes upon religious rights. To remember that currently the percentage of Americans who are transgender, 0.8 to 1%. For some reason, the Mormon Church and other churches are so threatened by that percentage of people that they're going to write with their lawyers pages and pages and pages of legal documents to convince them that that small group of people should not be granted protected legal status because it will infringe on their religious freedom. Obvious thing, let's get out of the way here. Transgender people existing, having rights, especially being protected in some way because everybody's going after them, that does nothing to religion, does not change your religion. Is it a very important part of your religion that other people's pronouns need to be the ones that you like associated to what their genitalia is? Does that affect your ability to practice your religion? When I think that I'm evolved enough, I'm growing enough to be able to build a bridge with Mormon people, then this happened. I have not heard a single argument from anybody about how transgender people existing infringes on religious people's rights. What religious people don't seem to understand is transgender people don't want to take your church away. They don't want to make you not be able to go to church. They don't want to make you trans. They don't want to make you gay. I don't know what the without compass or star means. I don't know if that's a legal thing or if we're just pretending like we're in the 1800s. Elevating transgender status, again, of 1% of the population would weaken the Religious Freedom Act. That's the big thing they keep saying, create uncertainty for religious organizations. I don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Their argument is that elevating transgender people makes what they have to do for or about or around transgender people uncertain, and that chills their ability to exercise their religion. I would like to know what their version of tailored legislation is and what they consider basic rights. But again, it's just over and over and over recognizing transgender status will undermine religious freedom. Someone give me a single argument supporting that. Again, I'm not a lawyer, so correct me if I'm wrong, but this little part here, when a church is uncertain about what a court is going to say about transgender rights and how that affects them, the church would then have to mold their mission to avoid government penalties. Talking about litigation, which the church loves. Doesn't the Mormon Church always constantly try to avoid government penalties already? They do that with their money like all the time, but that's an important right to be protected. And transgender people, they're known for nothing more than making sure religions have to report their income correctly. This is a good one too. Granting transgender status would recast millennia old religious teachings. We shouldn't do this because what we believe has been going on for a very long time. What you're saying is we shouldn't change laws because they've been like this for a long time. And the Mormon Church loves changing shit about their own doctrine and pretending like they didn't. If we were keeping all the millennia of religious teachings in our laws, there'd be a lot more problems going on. Then they go into, if we give transgender people status, religions are going to be called bigots as bad as racists. If we uplift them, then everybody's going to think we're bigots and we're going to receive social stigma. You're using this argument against a group that right now has probably the most social stigma. I'm sorry to break this to you, Mormon Church, but you already have a lot of social stigma. Are you serious? How many millions of members does your giant church supposedly have? How many people compared to that are transgender? You're going to be the second-class citizen in that situation? How weak is your religion that the existence of people that you think, whatever stupid things you think about, the very existence of those people, them being recognized and protected by the federal government, your religion is so weak, that small group of people is just going to come in and upend everything and then poor whiny you. Look at what trans people are going through right now. You're not the ones we should be feeling sorry for right now. You're not the ones that we should be going, oh my God, they need to be protected. If you look up transgender on the LDS Church's website, Jesus says to love everybody, even if they don't experience the world the same way. We need to look at each other through Christlike eyes. We shouldn't allow judgment to dictate the way we interact with other people. Jesus said we should not marginalize people. You know what? That's a problem and we got to fix it. So apparently what I've been talking about in this video is their version of trying to fix it. This is a good one too. People who experience transgender feelings need to be encircled with the love of Christ, and we need to be welcoming. Encourage everyone to do so. Your website says this, and you're literally fighting to make sure that transgender people do not get protected status and all the rights that everyone else has. This is on your website. You know what? You poor Mormons, when somebody's transgender, you just might not know what to say, and you might sometimes feel inadequate. Those poor Mormons. If there are Mormons out there decrying this, then great. My question for you would be, at what point do you decide this organization is not one that you can support anymore? This isn't the first time that they've done something that tries to limit the rights of gay people, trans people. They've been at this for a long time, and they still have on their website how much they love and accept everyone. So for those of you who are Mormon and have a problem with this, at what point are you supporting an organization that does not deserve your support and that is actively fighting for the harm of other people, and saying at the same time, out of the same mouth, that they support them and love them and want everybody else to do so? This whole thing is one of the most atrocious that have made me the most angry of the things that the church does. And I'm wearing my Hosier shirt because I thought it would spiritually protect me, and it probably did, but I'm still very, very angry. If you left the church and you ever were like, I don't know, man, was that the right decision? Yeah, it was. It was.
I'm very, very honored to have you as a co-host on the show.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be asked, especially twice. That's very nice.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce our guest, and I'd like to do it the same way I introduced you, by showing you a video of her. What she has to say is so valuable. You both are adding such value to this show. So bear with me as I try to be.
To it. It's good because the more attention we can get to this, the better.
Right? Exactly.
Week, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or the Mormon Church, released some policy changes that are very detrimental to transgender individuals and their families. The church has never been LGBTQ friendly, which is a major reason why I chose to leave the church last year. The new policies restrict trans members from having the same kind of benefits they would have if they could just be cisgender like everybody else. This includes restrictions on the types of activities they can attend, such as camps and overnight activities. Trans members cannot teach children. That may be because they don't want to influence children, but if anybody from the outside looks in, they might think they don't want to be with children because they are perceived as sexual predators, which they're not. Additionally, if a trans member needs to go to the restroom, they need to have a trusted adult go with them as a chaperone, check inside to make sure nobody's there, let this trans member go inside and stand guard so no one else will go inside when they're doing their business. If the church practiced empathy, they would understand that this would be humiliating for anyone in the trans community. I'm the mother of a trans teen. When they came out to me, the church handbook said that I could not use their preferred name and pronouns. So it took me a very long time to learn to adapt. As a consequence, we really struggled in our relationship. I wouldn't respect my child because my church told me not to. The only positive thing I see about this policy change is that church leaders are now told that they can use the member's name and pronouns. However, it is up to the discretion of these leaders. And so as there is bishop roulette, not everyone is guaranteed safety. My relationship with my teen has changed dramatically since I chose them over the church. Unfortunately, a lot of trans youth are getting in trouble because they will be with parents that are, like I once was, who reject them for who they are and are supported by leaders who do the same. And unless things change for the better and the church chooses to love people for who they are and not shame them or try to change them, we are going to see a lot more damage.
Before this started, I pulled up the amicus brief on my Google, and I pulled up the church handbook regulations. So those are the exact things that I wanted to bring up. So I'm so glad that you played those specific too. And that video she did was such a good coverage of it and has so much meat to get into with that.
I love that she explained how, in the beginning she felt obligated to follow God, and it was hard to accept her child, but then she learned.
And she said
something lesson of her life.
That she said something that I've said before, that there's, and there probably are shades of this, but there's two kinds of parents in the church. There's parents that leave their church for their kids, and there's parents that leave their kids for the church. And unfortunately, I feel like in most ways, my parents have left me they've chosen the church over me over and over and over again. I'm not transgender, but expressing the pain that the church caused on multiple levels. There has been no attempt at doing what she did, which is looking at yourself, probably your long held religious beliefs, pain that you may have caused, really challenging your entire worldview and making giant life changes based on that for your kid. So I have to beyond commend Kate for that. And I hope she can hear me saying this right now.
You bet. And it's very admirable, but let's bring her on. Kate, welcome.
Yeah, I did that. Well, thank you. And thanks for having me on. And thank you, Samantha, that I did hear it and I appreciate that.
Okay, good. Yeah.
We are so grateful that you've joined us tonight. I'm grateful that both of you are here because I could not have found two better people to discuss this with than the both of you. As you probably both know, I have 4 kids, two of which are gay. And when they came out, it was just another Tuesday for me. I mean, it's like I would never think of not supporting my kids. I love them eternally. I can't explain how much I love them. And to think that some parents turn away from their kids when they find out that they're not meeting that Mormon mold, that they don't fit perfectly into it, it disgusts me. First of all, the Mormon mold disgusts me.
Yeah.
And I'm angry. I've got to tell you both, I'm angry. I've been listening
to
to
be an angry party today because I'm right with you.
Yeah, I've been listening to a lot of things. I have a couple of very dear friends who are trans, and watching the way they're treated. And I have a friend, I recently the announcement that we made for this show, I put it on a channel called Christianity versus Mormonism, just an advertisement for the show. And I found out there are a bunch of redneck hicks that are totally homophobic, transphobic, and I got angry. I wanted to ask you both, as parents of transgender children, I know you hear a lot of things that make you very angry, and I could use some tips on how to calm my anger down, because people are so ignorant, and I don't understand how they can possibly call themselves Christian with a gavel in their hand and always judging. I wonder if maybe I could get both of you, starting with Kate. Would you mind telling us a little bit about your upbringing and how it affected you when you found out your child was trans, and how you worked through that?
Yeah, I grew up really, really Orthodox. I grew up in Provo, and you may feel sorry for me. A lot of people do when they learn that. I grew up at Queen High School, right across the street from BYU. My dad worked for the church education system and had all
you
of
were
those,
right
you know. I was what?
You're right in the middle of it. You're like the middle of it.
Oh,
yeah.
It was in the middle, and the church was our life. The church was our life. I mean, my dad, and we had 6 kids in our family. I was 4th of 6, so Jan Brady kind of explains a bunch there. But as I grew up in Provo, there wasn't a single person I knew who was not a member of the church. There were a couple of people in the ward that weren't, and of course they were all projects to try to get them to convert. But otherwise, everybody I knew, my teachers, my parents, my friends, my neighbors, everybody. So I grew up with this mentality, and married within the church, and so I only have one child from my first marriage, and the name is Theo. And Theo was about 14 years old, I want to say, where started exploring what it was like to be LGBT. At first, knowing who I was, like the Young Women's president, and knowing that I kind of had a rod up my ass. I really did. But Theo would kind of tried saying things like, well, Mom, I need you to know that I'm an ally. I've got friends at school. And I'm like, that's great. You can be an ally. That's wonderful. Mom, I think I'm pansexual. Oh, okay, tell me what that means. And then it kind of evolved over time until finally, when Theo was about 16, said, Mom, I'm trans. And I didn't know what to do. I really had no idea, because I had a lot of compassion and empathy for other people in the LGBT community, because I was a theater kid. Lots of my friends were gay, and that's one thing for it to be the other people's or somebody else's kid, but it's something very different when it's your own. And I struggled. I had been Young Women's president, and 2 of my youth came out as gay and lesbian during 2020. And I read the church handbook, and at the time, the church handbook said what I mentioned in the video. The handbook said if they are come out to you, you need to use the name and pronouns that were given them at birth. That's just what the church said. And so I was like, I love you. I don't understand this. Give me some time, but I'm not going to use those. I'm sorry. I'm not going to use your preferred name and pronoun right now. Because in my mind, I had to choose. I had to choose God or my child. And it was killing me inside. But I tried to be open-minded. And so I spent a lot of time really researching and trying to figure out what it was like. I'm an educator by profession, and I know that a lot of these challenges come from ignorance, and I just didn't know enough. So I started listening to podcasts. One I'm going to give a huge shout out to is Listen, Learn, Love by Papa Osler, if you're familiar with that one. I loved it. And we were actually guests on his podcast about a year ago.
We'll be sure to put the link to that show in the description of the video.
Oh, great. Yeah. I thought it was really awesome for us to go and and be on his podcast and share my story. And even though he's a stalwart member of the church and he's doing his best to help love and accept the LGBT community as a member of the church, he didn't necessarily want me to come on and promote my ex-Mormon views. And so it was, I said, hey, I've left the church and here's why, but I respect your right to preach and I'm grateful for the good that he's doing. But as I was listening to this a couple of years ago, listening to his podcast, I also felt like it was important for me to talk to parents of LGBT youth. I started with parents who were members of the church, and the stake young women's president. As I was young women's president in my ward, I had lots of conversations with her about this idea of what do I do when my youth come out to me? Because I've already had 2 of them, and I'm trying really hard to be supportive. There was the one youth who came out as trans to me, and my first response was, well, of course God still loves you, but of course God loves you, and I love you. And this young person said, well, my parents don't. And at the time, the church was very, like home-centered, church-supported kind of thing. And so it was my job as the women's president to go and talk with the parents. And I made this. I wish I could do it again, but I asked this youth to go meet with the bishop. And at the same time, my counselor and I went to go visit with her parents. And at the time we were meeting with the parents, and the parents were like, oh, no, this person's not gay. It's just it's the influence of friends. And so anytime that she starts talking about it, we take the computer away from her, and just lots of punitive response to the fact that this youth is like, this is how I feel. And I'll call this person Jay, was like, I can't wait till I'm 18. I'm getting out of this house and I'm not looking back, because didn't feel loved and accepted. And I felt torn as a young women's president at the time, like, well, I've got to support the parents. That's my job, and to support the Lord. But I can see the pain, the agony that this 16-year-old is in. And it was everything I could do to make sense of it all. So I did go on that journey for about 1.5 years when my Theo came out to me. And I said, I started meeting with parents who were not members of the church, who had trans kids. And a dear friend of mine, I grilled her for a while. I said, well, how do you do it? What do you do? She had a trans son, and I had a trans son. And she said to me, you know what? I came to a decision. Either I could have a trans child or I could have a dead child. Those are my choices. And so she showed me with her love and her courage how to be more loving and accepting. Fast forward to about the spring of 2023, I was still really torn up about all of this. And this is when Theo was in a play at the Pioneer Theater Company in Utah. It's a professional theater. And Theo got to play himself. And so they used Theo's preferred name, preferred pronouns, and everybody in the cast did on stage and backstage and everything. And it was awesome, because I saw my kid light up in a way that I had never seen Theo light up before. When Theo was with these people, he felt just so loved and accepted and heard. And I looked at my child at this cast party thinking, I've been denying my kid this the whole time. I've been denying him all of this love. I was wrong. And so after that first performance, I pulled my kid into a hug and I said, I am so sorry. I'm so sorry. I was blind to this. And I need you to know that I love and accept you exactly as you are. So of course I'm going to use your name and I'm going to use your pronouns, because you deserve nothing less than that. And that's kind of what also kicked off my exit from the church as well, because I knew I had to choose between not God, but the church's dogma. I had to choose between the dogma and my child.
Isn't it rich that we are forced to choose the church or to be Christlike?
Right. And at this time, I remember thinking, what kind of God would put me in a position to do this? What kind of God would give me the gift of this, my only child, and ask me to have to choose between him? Oh, the same God who had Abraham go sacrifice his son Isaac. Which I look at that and I think, okay, yeah. And I look at that and I think, well, the same God that would do that would be putting Isaac in therapy the rest of his life, and we would have to call DCFS on Abraham for like attempting to murder his only son. So if I would have to call,
never DCFS, do any of that. Jesus is whole, that's God, but Jesus' whole thing was like anti all of the things that the church is doing for and about trans people.
Yes.
They don't name trans people in the Bible, but we all know that the people he associated with and stuck up for, transgender people would have been in that category. So I don't even
Oh.
know why anybody calls themselves Christian at this point, really, at all. Sorry.
Right? Yeah.
No, I get it. I think that if Jesus were here today, he would be ministering to the trans community, the LGBT community, because that's exactly the type of people he was hanging out with back then. You're absolutely right.
Any comments, Samantha?
I've been like taking notes about things that I would want to bring up, so I could start anywhere, but
Absolutely.
I don't want to turn it like about me, but like
This is all about both of you.
Okay.
And so
my first
anything.
thought was just that you had such good instincts on your journey to where to go. Like you said, you had no idea what to do, but your instincts were to start looking it up, and then to start talking to parents of people in your community, and then to expand that to people about, like, your instincts were really, really good. Like you didn't just like shut down. Like you immediately felt that cognitive dissonance. But like, in a sense, I think this was me throughout my journey of getting out of the church too, where like, if I was being honest with myself, I would have known, I know what I believe is right and wrong. I knew already. Like I knew that years before I left the church, but you can't just like cut ties that easy when that's your whole, like you said,
Right.
when it's like your entire life. So like, you know, like you knew, like this is a conflict, this is not going to work on some level, but like, it sounds like your journey was a little shorter than mine. Like I spread mine out, but it was a series of trying to make things work, trying to make things make sense so you can stay and it can all be okay. But like, I don't know, I just think get really good instincts. Another thing that I like noticed is when you're in the church, it is very normal to have to check if what you're doing is right or wrong. So you either check with your bishop, or you check with the Bible, or you check with the Book of Mormon, or you check with a church handbook or a church manual or a talk or some friend. Like you have to, every thought you think, you have to check with someone else, and even like confession, which expands to temple recommend interviews. Like, are you wearing your underwear right? Like, are you doing this right? So it's very, very normal when you're in the church to just be like, that's just what it's like. You don't find it disturbing. I didn't find it disturbing. I found it normal. So now I look back and you're like, I see it all the time, but you had to do that too, where it was like automatic disapproval, wait on us for like the church is like, wait on us for what you need to think and what you need to do. But you have to go check. You can't just think, like, you can't just have this conversation with yourself. And if you do, you have a lot of shame about it. Because like for me, like having, it was different because I got out of the church. My son's 18, but I got out of the church when he was like just about to turn 8, and he didn't have his like transition, his journey until he was like 12, 13. So fortunately he's not baptized in the church. He doesn't remember anything about it. But like throughout that time, it was like, I was doing research on my own, but you can't openly tell people that you're doing that. And if you do, if you suggest that, like on something you post on Facebook or whatever, like people get mad. I had people like mad at me for sharing things like that. So just that, like, just want to point out how abnormal and unhealthy it is that an organization requires us to check with them about what we can have our opinions be about, but you went beyond that.
100%.
So like, this is, and like, okay, interrupt me if you have thoughts, please. But like,
but I just want to say the first thing was I did immediately go to the church handbook. That was the very first place I went. When those youth came out to me, I was like, well, what does the church have to say about it? I didn't finish the story there with the bishop. Oh, he did not love what the bishop did when this youth, I said, go talk to the bishop. And this youth, Jay, went to the bishop, and then the bishop called me afterward and said, what are you doing sending Jay to me like this? How could you not warn me that this was going to happen? Because Jay says they came out to you before they came out to me. And I said, that is not my place.
Yeah,
that is not my place. This is Jay's story. And I like somehow thought that Jay would be safe talking to you. What the hell? And so the fact that he got upset with me for not
doing part of his job,
for doing his job, like preparing him to actually try to have compassion or something like that. Would have had me to blame if I told him in advance. But that goes back to your point. Like the church really wants us to check all of the boxes and go through them in every part of our faith expansion.
in every part of your life. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's all about compliance. Are you complying with the church handbook? Are you complying with what the prophet says? Are you in compliance? And if you're drinking the Kool-Aid, you're good.
See, and that's what makes me like, I get anger come up for just hearing that, because there's all these things that have been so baked into me because of being raised Mormon, like have fucked me up like real bad, like throughout. And I'm 41, I'm almost 42, and I'm like just dealing with it now. So I get super angry when I hear those things, because I was taught, not only were we taught those things were normal, having to report, having to check, and that causes like major moral scrupulosity, OCD. If you've ever heard of that, I looked that up and I was like, well, that's my brain. I didn't think that. I thought that was just me. It wants you to have that. So not only does it tell you it's normal, it tells you that it's good and you're lucky that you have it. That you're so lucky you have these handbooks to check. You're so lucky you have all the rules you could possibly need to know. So you never have to have any questions. You never have to challenge anything. You never have to wonder about anything, because it's all listed out for you, but that becomes an absolute prison. And I think there's a lot of like cross between of like what we were all taught about sexuality is like conversion therapy light, because we may not have been gay, and I in no way want to diminish the actual overt conversion therapy that gay people have had to go through in the Mormon church and are continuing to, and in other churches. But we were told it was the sin next to murder. So we were told how we can use our sexuality, where we can use it, who we can use it with, when we can use it, and who, and also we were all taught you can't be gay. You're not gay. Like nobody's gay. You know what I mean? So in a way you got before you even like, and I don't talk about this a lot either because I feel weird about it, but like I know about myself that I'm bi, but it's very weird to engage with that because I didn't know that my entire life, and it wasn't even an option in my head because I'm like I'm believing Mormon, like that's not a thing I can be. You know what I mean? So I think there's a lot of crossover of like when you said I was wrong, I'm sorry to your kid, like I'm sorry, I don't know if my mom will come across this video. I don't talk to her, but those are words I will never hear from her. And so hearing when I talk to people on podcasts and online, like I don't want to be like, oh, I wish you were my mom, but I wish I heard those things. And so what a huge deal it is that you said that to your kid. I was wrong. I'm sorry. Full acceptance. And not only of my parents for me, and I'm not transgender, just like I was wrong. I'm sorry. I was wrong to raise you in the church. I was wrong to whatever, like, I'm sorry. And I'm sorry that you had this experience and I want to hear about it. And I'm choosing you, not the church, or my parents and my husband's parents for my transgender kid. They haven't been as bad as you can be, but they've not been on board even a little bit. It took them years and years and years to even use his pronouns correctly. And half of them just avoid the name and pronouns. They've learned how to say something that they cannot. They'll use his name now, but they try to avoid the issue. You know what I mean? So that's where I get mad, because I'm like, well, I get mad, number one, where you can be nice, but you belong to a church that has the things that you were talking about in that video, Kate. Like that's their policy. Yeah. So I'm assuming you wish my transgender kid was still in your church. That's the policies that they would be under. That's okay with you? Or they're doing the amicus brief thing and they want to like limit these. Here's the thing though, they may not even know about that, because those are the kinds of things that the church doesn't come right out and be like, hey, just so you know, like you have to look into that shit. But I'm like, okay, so you're in this organization that does that. I get very, very angry about that, and that the church encourages people. Like that's where my anger comes up, just like not accepting, not saying you're sorry, not letting people be who they are. And we could get right into that. Creates situations of self-harm and of self-offing. And that's in kids who do have support, because it's still hard. You know what I mean? So like, I'm sorry, I'm going all over this place, but I just give you a lot of credit for saying I was wrong, I'm sorry. I wanted to mention when you said the influence of friends, that one of your friends said that, oh, it's just that influence and like take the computer away. Like that feels like a recipe for disaster, because I have some parenting philosophies that maybe not everybody agrees with, but if you just take the computer away, all you're doing in a situation like that is encouraging your kid to hide it a different way. They're going to find computer there. You're encouraging them to hide more. You're encouraging them to back away from you, to not trust you, to your relationship to rift. So that is not, kids are smart. Kids can go to other people's houses. Kids can go in their, they're not going to never see a computer again. All you're teaching them is how to not use a computer the right way. And then as far as the influence friends thing, it's like, that's what I don't get. Like when people like Randy, I wanted to get back at some point to what you were saying about like how to manage your reactions to like people who are being ridiculous. But a lot of them will say like, you know, like I think my parents hoped my son's was just a phase. And they kind of like didn't want to do the names and didn't want to do the pronouns because they figured it would like change. Where my son went, he kind of evolved, kind of how your son did. Like, you know, I'm bi. No, I'm non-binary. I want like he, they pronouns. No, I'm just he. So it took him a while of a journey to figure out who he was, right? Which is totally normal. And I hear people saying, oh, people change back, or like, oh, they're always changing. One day they're this, one day they're that. And I'm like, well, who cares? Who cares? That's adolescent development. And even as an adult, like, who cares? Like, you figure out who you are. You feel different every day. Like, adolescent development, when they're 12, they might be really into dragons. And when they're, you know, 15, they may be really into the Beatles. And when they're 17, like, how come you're not like, oh, well, I don't care that you like dragons, because you're just not going to like dragons for a long time. Like, people go through phases. And of course, it's the influence of friends. You learn things. Like, these kids have access to vocabulary we didn't have access to. So they have a lot more ideas out there of, well, oh, that's a word I never heard. That feels like something that resonates with me. So yeah, sure,
Right.
it's the influence of friends, and I don't think that's a bad thing because all you're saying is we don't like that friend's influence. This friend's influence is fine with us from church. That's good. If you have good influences that we approve of, then yay. But these ones we don't like. So it's very selective of when you're going to be caring about the influence of friends. Super makes me sad that you said kids want to leave. These kids are like, I just want to leave my parents as soon as possible because my son, his friends are like 17, 18, and I can see that in them. They are just biding their time until they can get out of these houses. So I try to make my house a place where they know they can use whatever names and pronouns. You tell me what I am and I'm not supposed to say around your parents, what they know and what you don't want them to know. My house is a safe place. You can be whoever you are, dress however you want to dress. I've had kids come to my house in the past dressed one way and change when they get here because they can't dress how they want to dress with their parents. Like I feel like, and these aren't even, I don't live in a Mormon area. I'm in a suburb of Chicago. And it feels like the vast majority of my friends, of my son's friends who are all in the queer community, their parents are, I'm sorry, but they're being pieces of shit about it. And it's so harmful and it makes me so angry, which is why I feel so strongly about doing whatever I can to create situations that these kids feel some kind of love. And that's got to be so much more challenging in Provo, Utah. Like,
I don't live there anymore. Yeah, but
You
that's
escaped.
real.
That's a
I
hard
escaped.
place.
I got 100.
Or are you not there anymore?
Yeah. I'm in Salt Lake. I'm a little bit more progressive
so at
now.
least a little
But
bit,
yeah. Yeah. As you were talking about how there are parents that use these punitive measures. I was one of them. I mean, earlier on, Theo was like about 12 years old when I got a text from the mother of a friend and was saying, I just found the phone and they're talking about being gay. And she was also a stalwart member of the church. And I was like, we can't have this. We can't have this at all. And so I took away the phone privileges from this kid of mine. I took Theo's phone and I plugged it in my room at night because I just didn't want this to happen. And right now, and I can see how that put a wedge in our relationship because no longer did I trust Theo, and Theo's like, well, I don't trust you either. And so through all of this, there was that friction. I mean, I say like I worked on myself, but it did not come out without consequence. Theo, we just didn't really talk or enjoy each other for about a year and a half of Theo's formative years. Of his formative years, I was not a present mom, but fortunately things changed over time. The reason I say that is I can understand why parents are the way they are because I was one of them.
Yeah.
And as I hear the anger that both of you have, and I have some myself, I also really lean into empathy for these parents, just understanding that they've been indoctrinated their entire lives.
They had no tools.
Not just
like
they had no tools. You're right.
So like you finding that the church isn't giving you tools for that. So all you have is like
No.
shut it down. Like, I don't know what to do. Shut it down. Take it away. Yeah.
And the tools that I did get came outside of the church and outside Christianity. You'll never find them in Christian.
No, they just want to erase the things that they don't like.
One of the things that makes me the angriest is that there are so many people who believe that being gay, being transgender, being part of the queer community is a total choice. And it's not a choice. You know, it's who these people are.
But here's the thing, what I will add is, so what if it was?
Well, right. I mean,
You know
let them be who they are. Right.
Yeah. Choose what you want to choose. It's like, it's even that inherently thing, like, well, it's not a choice. They have to. Like, well, even if it is, that's fine as well. You know what I mean? But I completely hear what you're saying, especially about like, you know, like, I remember my mom having a book when I was like living at home in Mormon, and it was Born This Way. It was called Born This Way with a question mark. And so I think my mom was like, and I think it was written by a Mormon. I don't remember much, but I think my mom was kind of struggling with that stuff too, like prior. So even that, it's like, you got to go look to something to figure out what God would say. Plus, isn't God like really into free will? So shouldn't he be like,
Is that?
I thought.
Shouldn't he be like, all right, like,
That's what they were taught, but free will as long as you do what the church says. Otherwise,
right. I feel like Lucifer actually liked free will a lot better.
You agree?
Yeah.
He really did.
Sorry, I interrupted you. I'm really good at interrupting, Randy. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. Please listen. Every word that both of you have is of extreme value. I do want to say there's a little bit of a lag, Kate, and so I understand that when I say something, it's going to take just a second for you to hear it. I wanted to just bring out another point, and this is something, as long as we're talking about anger, we have an epidemic in the because I don't know why I say that. I'm not part of the church, nor will I ever be again. But there's an epidemic in the LDS Church that is disgusting, and that's the SA of children. that is
Covered up.
covered up over and over and over again. And
Put
I'm
a
sure
link
you
to
probably,
floodlit.org. You know Floodlit?
you bet.
Yeah, put a link
Yeah.
to floodlit.org. And they have a map. They have a map that you can click on and see. I just looked at it the other day. Like, you can, it's kind of buried in their website, but you can navigate it to it. And it's a literal map of the United States, probably the world. And you could click on it. It has the name and the picture and the situation of the people who,
I'll bet Utah is probably just
Oh, it's
glowing with
blown up,
red.
yeah. Mhm. Yeah.
It is. One of the names you'll see on there is Todd Christofferson, the apostle. His brother Wade has been arrested again for child SA, and he was excommunicated for it way back when, and then they erased that and put him back into positions of leadership because he moved into a ward where his bishop was his friend, and it just conveniently left his record, and he became he went back into full activity with high callings,
Of course.
and they just swept it under the rug. And by the way, they said, well, he's rebaptized, so he's perfect again.
This is the kind of thing, Randy, that like, whenever I think, and I said this in my other video, whenever I think like, oh, maybe I can build a bridge, maybe I can find a way to still feel, because I feel awkward around any Mormon. I'm not around Mormons a lot, but when I am, which is primarily just like my husband's family once every year, maybe every 2 years, and they're great, I still feel uncomfortable because whenever I think of that, I'm like, you are in an organization that systemically covers up childhood sexual abuse, and you don't even know about it. And you would say that it's a lie. They would just say that we're lying. None of it's real, right? If your organization has that kind of a problem, your organization needs to stand up at General Conference and say that this is a fucking giant problem that we need to address, that we need to get everybody out that's doing it. These people need to be in jail. This is one of the most unacceptable things. And like, listen, I'm sorry. I told you I was going to get salty. The list of sins.
Get salty.
First is the unpardonable sin, which unpardonable is basically saying to God, I don't believe in you, or leaving the church, or whatever people want to call that unpardonable sin, right? Against the Holy Ghost. That's the worst one because it offends God. The second one is murder. So what's more important to God is that you don't ever say that you don't like him or don't believe in him.
Yeah.
That's more important than not killing your fellow people. And then sexual sin is also less important, or almost important as that, where the most important thing is you're offending God. The second most important thing is don't kill anybody, but that's not offending God. And then don't have sex with anybody. But childhood sexual abuse isn't even up there. I guess you would say that's number 3, but I feel like that's a pretty different level of sexual activity. So I would guess that would be number 1 of the unpardonable sin. So, but no, that's one that you can find a lawyer and.
There's zero consent. Child cannot give consent in this situation at all. The church doesn't teach us the first thing about consent, though.
Oh, you can't.
There's no such
I
thing.
did a video about that too. You can't teach consent in purity culture because all there can be is no. So if you tell them and suggest that, oh, well, you could say yes too, that ruins everything. You can only ever say no. So yeah, no, you can't have any conversations about consent. And they're grooming. I hate when they call transgender people or people like us groomers, but if they're not grooming kids, I don't know what they're doing. Like, it's on a grooming light. We were groomed to get married and have kids as soon as we possibly could. That was our entire existence, right? And these kids from birth, we were groomed to obey priesthood male authority. So if you're groomed to obey priesthood male authority, that's going to lead to some situations, unfortunately, like I'm assuming what you're about to play.
Exactly. I want to play 2 short videos for you, and I'm jumping a little bit back and forth between the SA of children and the way the church handles it,
Yeah,
and how they treat the members of the LGBTQ. The point that I want to get across is this: people who are gay, people who are transgender, people who are different are not perverted. They're not sinning. They're not doing anything that would endanger church members. The people who are committing SA are extremely dangerous to the membership and to their kids,
and
those little primary kids.
Yep.
And yet we let them come, the SA people, we let them into the church. We promote them into positions of leadership.
even over children.
Over children, even over children. And yet someone who's trans, they have to follow them around and watch while they go into the restroom.
Which also can create a situation where that transgender kid is at risk, because what if the trusted adult is another childhood SA person who is trusted with bringing this kid to the bathroom by themselves?
Right? Are you fucking kidding me?
That's setting up a whole other situation. Like, this is not about protecting anybody. I don't know what it's about, but it's not about protecting anybody. Yeah,
Yeah,
All about control. Mhm.
exactly. Let me just play this real quick.
I recognize this
We
guy.
had a Christmas party. Like every great missionary, we invited all of her friends. She ended up bringing a transgender woman to the party. This person ended up going into the female bathroom. Men were following her around the whole entire time, found her going into the bathroom, and then kicked her out of the church, which to me was devastating as a missionary. How do you kick someone out of the church? If God was here, if there was Jesus here, that's the person he would be helping out. We went over to this lady's house who invited all of her friends, said, hey, I don't want to be part of a church that would segregate people from coming to church. Church is where Jesus is, and he would accept everyone. My next meeting we had, I brought this situation up. I totally lost all control, went after that ward, that they were not Christlike at all. The next transfer, I was out of that area.
Stories like that, it's unreal.
Exactly. And this burns me up. These people who are so kind and genuine and living their life the way they feel in their hearts that they need to live it are being hunted and stalked by these patriarchal pricks in the Mormon church. Sorry, because I'm getting pretty salty here too.
Go right ahead,
But,
salt away.
you know, these a-holes follow them around and point and judge and do everything that Christ told us not to do. They are judgmental, and who
And
are
they have on
they?
their website, don't judge people, love everybody. And then on the same church is doing, like, why do you even have that on your website? Do you think we can't see you? Do you think we don't know
Right.
what you're doing? Yeah.
No, it's righteous indignation, Samantha. They get a pass because it's righteous indignation.
Right, because they're the right ones. I forgot. Yeah, yeah. There's always that.
Oh, it just makes me so angry.
Especially when it's so serious. So like Kate, when you said that your friend said I could, or maybe it was you, I could have a trans child or a dead child. So
Yeah.
I don't think people understand that. So without getting into too much personal stuff about my son's mental health journey, we have only ever been supportive of his transition and him figuring it out. Right. And in Illinois, we have access to good care. We have access to transgender care for minors. I don't know how it's changing now. It is changing. It's less not because it's not legal, but because people are afraid, and because insurance companies that may be legal in Illinois to provide health, like gender affirming care to minors, they have business in other states, and so they don't want to get in trouble, and so they're hesitant, if not doing it, to provide gender affirming care. So I don't know how, and I would ask you in a minute, like what the situation there with that is, but when our son was having some really serious mental health problems, and he was like, this was like 3 years ago, so he was 15, 14. Right at the time I was also having some really serious mental health problems. It was a really, really, really difficult time. And then having my son have those problems made it so much worse for me. But it did get to the point where we were afraid. We were afraid for his life, of him taking his life. And we were on a wait list for Lurie's Children's Hospital in the city. They were one of the only places that would provide gender affirming care for minors. Fortunately, we found a gender affirming care doctor locally who she used to work with the main hospital system here doing their gender affirming care, but found enough problems, saw through enough bullshit where she created her own practice that is like subscription based and no insurance is taken. So you pay a monthly fee and get your care that way. And I thought, we can't afford that. Like we don't have the money to afford that. I don't know how we're going to do that. But then when it got that serious, I was like, I'll go broke. I'll go into debt for the rest of my life if it saves my kid's life. If he's saying he wants to be on T, and even if I don't understand it, which I totally support it, I'm not transgender, so I'm not going to pretend like I understand every single bit of it. But if that's what he says is going to help him, and that's what the statistics and the studies say is going to help him, even if there's risk, which we were told about, you're sat down, you're told about the risks of long-term testosterone, you talked about this and this and this and this. Like, until you have a child who you are worried about them taking their own life, you don't get to say what you would do. And if you do have a child that you're in that situation and you don't do whatever the fuck it could possibly take to save them, I don't even have words. Like, we would do anything. We would do anything. So we did. Luckily, we got that access. And I do believe it was a big factor in saving his life. And then when Trump became the president, they got terrified. They were like, do I have to start stocking up? Like, do I have to stock up on tea? Like, what's going to happen? Like, is there going to be a black market? Is there going to, I even sometimes am hesitant to even say I have a transgender kid, because I'm like, what's going to happen? Like, are we going to get, is it, I don't want to be like a fear monger, but sometimes it feels like, the ICE is like Gestapo over here. Like, what's going to happen? Like, I'm like, I want to get my kids' passports just in case we got to get out of Dodge. Like, it's so serious. It's not just a matter of like, I don't believe in this. It's like, well, do you care about people's lives? even if you don't understand it, even if you don't know.
Samantha, my blood pressure was high enough.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
And then you go and mention rum. Oh my gosh.
Sorry.
That's
Yeah,
oh no,
maybe
don't be
we should-
sorry.
maybe we should-
Don't be sorry. That's
Yeah,
a
maybe
whole
we're going
other
to talk
issue.
about
That is a whole other conversation.
My blood pressure just went up here, even on top of where it was. But no, you're right. And the fearmonger here is Trump. But I won't get started
It's all
on that.
blaming. It's all just
We'll do
distraction.
another show on that. Yeah,
But
exactly.
it does relate to your question earlier about like how to react when people are like that. So I think I've made mistakes. Like if it's online that these people are saying these things, I'm not sure how much you can do, because I've tried to be like as diplomatic and kind, and because I think when you just come at them with like, you're a piece of shit, like that doesn't help them. That doesn't, because the goal is you know they're ignorant. You know, they're just spouting things they've heard on Fox News and at church. And they're a bunch of people that probably have never even met a transgender person, or worse yet for them, have and don't know it, which blows their minds when they find out that not every trans person looks trans. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, if it's online, I think that's hard, because I have tried to have like I'll try to take conversations to DM. I'm like, let's have a, when I'm in the mood, let's have a calm conversation where you tell me what you think and I can tell you my experience. And I try to stay calm, right? But they don't listen, and they don't want it. They don't believe your sources. I had somebody once when I was trying to tell them about my experience, he was like, about my transgender son. I said that, I'm like, until you have a kid that you're worried about them taking your life, I don't think you have room to say what you would or wouldn't do. And he said, well, calling her him isn't going to help. And that's when I was like, okay, you're a son of a bitch. Like, I'm done with you. Like, fuck you. I'm not talking to you anymore. So I don't know how possible it is online, but in person, it's different. Like I used to teach dance, and I taught dance to a lot of older people. And the hardest part when we were like in the transition situation with my son, and people would talk about him, I would have to change the verbiage. Like at the time it was they, like, and what their name was at the time. And I wasn't nervous because I didn't support him. I was nervous because I knew what people's reactions are going to be. Like, I was so nervous to tell my parents that they had changed their pronouns to they before he went he. Like, every time it came up, I was so nervous, not because I didn't believe it was okay, but because I knew what people's reactions were going to be. And so sometimes they would just say really, insensitive, stupid things. Like, I had people ask, like, what kind of bra does he wear? And I'm like, why are you asking about, would you ask about any other teenage kid, like what kind of bra they'd wear? So I would say that, like, I could say, well, just so for the record, asking about someone's underwear is kind of strange, but I think what you're asking is like how they deal with it. There's things called binders. So I try to use the opportunity for a little bit of education, like without seeming angry. So like there's things called binders that a lot of trans people use. There's also tape that they use to tape it down. So, but just for the record, asking, questions about people's genitalia and underwear is probably not like super appropriate. Or when people ask, what was your son's birth name? I don't tell them, because that's generally most trans people will call that dead naming, and they don't want their birth name being said. And so I will say that to people, like, well, we don't really say his birth name because that's something that they refer to as. So just explain to them what dead naming is. Or like, I had one person not know my situation and start going on about transgender people in sports and how much they like were opposed to it and all this stuff. And I was like, okay, so here's an example for you that I always use, because their argument is that it's a biological advantage that trans men or trans women are having over cisgender women in sports. So they shouldn't be allowed, right? So I'm like, okay, so in that situation, wouldn't Michael Phelps be considered having a genetic advantage because his arms are very long, his torso is very long, his body is built genetically in a way that puts him ahead of other people in his category? So at what point is this, you have a genetic advantage, when you're gonna cut that off? Because the issue is that's not what it's really about. You just hate trans people. I didn't say that part. I just gave her a little, because you can't give them all this information at once. So you have to kind of like, like a little seed of just some information that you, in a non-judgmental way, plant, and you can tell they've never heard it. And that may change something down the line. Like, unfortunately, I think it's a very long game. You plant a little seed, you're nicer than you want to be. You don't call them an asshole. You don't cut them out of your life. You just try to plant small pieces of education and hope that spreads, because it can. I mean, that's what you did. You did that education on your own, but you were, on the other side, and then you did the education and you educated yourself and you completely changed. And I'm sure you changed your son's life, So anyway, I'm sorry. Please make me stop talking.
Those are great points, Samantha. And I love how you handled that question about the bra. You realized, it's probably just curiosity, and you took care of it and it was done. Kate, how is your child doing now that you're out of the church?
Much better. A lot of things have happened since then. I left the church, and a lot of left the marriage as well, and I'm working on figuring things out for myself. And so, but our relationship has strengthened a lot. At first, as you were talking about dead naming, Samantha, that was something that I was doing initially. I'm like, I'll use the pronouns. I don't know about the name. And at the time, and I'm using the name Theo because we had a chance to go on Good Morning America a little while ago.
Wow.
I did it.
Oh,
and,
wow.
and yeah, so this was last year, 2024. David Archuleta had that song Held Together. If you've heard that one before, with his mom. But it was very, very similar to the story that I had with Theo. Was when he sings the song, when he came out, his mom at first was like, "I love you, David, but I love God more." And then eventually came back. It was a few days later, came back and said, "You know what, David, I'm wrong. And if you're going to go to hell, we're going to go to hell together." And when I first heard this song, like I just sobbed, because this was my story too. I was David Archuleta's mom.
Sure.
I was Lupe. And so when that happened, when that happened, I did a TikTok video, and it went viral. It got lots of views. And I just said, this is my story set to the song. Like, this is the story I have with Theo. I used the pseudonym at the time, but Theo wanted to be known as Theo on national television, because Good Morning America found us and said, "Hey, come and tell us your story."
About it.
Yeah, they did. They approached us. And so last summer they flew us out to New York City, and we got a chance to kind of share a little bit of our story. And David Archuleta was there, and
That's so cool.
we were surprised. It was. And the reason I mentioned this is because I mean, as we were getting ready to go on, I said, "Theo, how do you want to introduce I was using the dead name at the time. I'm like, "How do you want to introduce yourself?" And because I know I was still on the fence about the name, and Theo was like, "No, I want to go by Theo." And okay, I had a minute to prepare to, like, this is my son Theo. But by having that opportunity to go and do this Good Morning America, and it was broadcast, so all of my family and friends got a chance to see it, because everyone in America knew that Theo was introducing himself as Theo. My parents now are using that name, but I don't think they would otherwise. I don't think they would.
And they don't know. Like my dad once, like, he came up to me and was talking about my son and using his dead name and using she.
Mm.
And I was like, "Dad, you can't do that." And he's like, "Well,
Yeah.
only when it's just us and they're not around." And I was like, "No, like, not even then. Like, you got to practice at home if you don't ever practice at home." But I'm sorry, that's really, really cool. And I'm so glad that your parents changed and did that.
They did that, but they'll still use old pronouns. They have a hard time with that.
They do. They
And
sure have a hard time with humor.
They do. And just last night I called Theo. I said, "We're gonna have this conversation. Is there anything you don't want me to say?" And because consent is important, right?
Yeah.
And they said it's okay that I share that Theo just started, or he said that he's just started testosterone just about a week and a half ago. And
So you guys have access to that in Utah?
yes, we do, fortunately. And it was interesting because things were so close. I just told Theo, like, it's going to be a lot harder for you to do this as a youth. Do you think you could wait until you're 18? And so Theo just turned 18 earlier this year, and the hospital wouldn't even talk to us until Theo was 18. So as soon as they did, we set the.
They don't do it for under 18 in Utah?
They do, but I think it's a lot harder. It's a lot more hoops to jump through. And so I thought, I mean, my friend who helped me out has this trans son. They had to go out of state to do, like, top surgery and one thing or another. And I thought, no, we're just going to take care of it once you're an adult. So go ahead.
No, I just want to point out, like, too, that a super huge misconception that people love to throw around is that we're doing surgeries on children. And that is not happening. You know what I mean? I mean, circumcisions happen. And ironically, intersex babies, the last I heard, how they change, how they decide is they just look at what they think is the most likely thing they can make it look like and do surgery on the baby. So yeah, I guess they are doing surgeries on babies, but we're not doing that for transgender people. Like, I don't even know what the rate of genital surgery is for anybody, a minor. I don't know that that's done, but even top surgery is very rarely done on minors. So these, like, I literally had someone tell me something and said that these parents are lobbing off the private parts of their children to me. And I was like, okay, bye. I'm not talking to you anymore. Like, as much as I want to be an evangelist, when somebody says something like that, I'm like,
I was like, it's ignorance and it's fear. They fear what they don't understand. I'm a school teacher, and I remember them saying, like, people on the far right would say, "Oh, they go to school and they come out with all of these changes." Absolutely not. That's not what it is. I think what it is when they go to school, they get an education on how to have empathy and to put themselves in the shoes of another person. and to have compassion. I was teaching 6th grade a couple of years ago. I mean, and I'm in Utah, right? Teaching in Utah. And one of my students, I was 98.9% sure that this child was gay. And even I was teaching a pronoun lesson, and he's like, so what about people who want to go by, they, them? And I'm like, that's a conversation for you and your parents. Like, I was really afraid to bring this up because I know that I would get a lot of backlash. I also did this art project with the kids. I was like, make a little mini billboard, like you're going to express yourself. And one of my girls, who was a best friend of the student, did a love is love kind of thing, the rainbow flag. I was terrified. I didn't want to put it up because I was afraid that I would get backlash. Fortunately, I mean, I eventually did, and nobody said anything, but there is that fear, knowing that as we teach kids how to be open-minded, how to be loving, to be accepting of one another, we're viewed as the enemy. And
I do
that's
feel
something
like,
that I'm going to continue to.
I do feel like things are and will continue to change, like incrementally. Like where I am, I have a friend who has a non-binary, like 8-9-year-old, which is, I didn't go through that having somebody that young. So I think that's a whole different challenge because it's not as common. And people who don't know, it's very confusing because like someone can be non-binary, but look like a girl. Right. So if someone like looks like a girl, but they're non-binary, these people, unless I had to do it too. Like we're born teaching that complete gender binary. So when I first learned about non-binary people, the first non-binary person I met, like it's not the right way to say it, but like presented like a girl. So I was confused. I was like, how can you be non-binary? And now I realize, like now from what I've learned, it's like you can be any combination of things and look any combination of ways. Like that's the whole thing. So, and it's not like when people say like, oh, that 8-year-old is too young to know that they are trans or that they are non-binary. Well, why? I know this has been said before, but then why are those other 8-year-olds too young to know that they're a she? Why is that other 8-year-old, that cisgender 8-year-old, too young to know that they're a boy and they like girls? Why?
Good point.
You know what I mean? So, and I don't think they have an answer to that because they just think, well, those are the only options. So
my son knew when he was 4 years old. He knew that he was gay. And 4 years old, are you kidding me? But it's more in retrospect. He says, yeah, back when I was 4, I was wondering on Aladdin why everyone loved Jasmine and I loved Aladdin. And I wanted posters of him. And he said, I knew then. I knew that I was different.
Can I tell a funny story about myself?
Oh, please.
So when I was in high school, or younger than high school, my parents like worked. So I would be in the summer, I would be home. And I remember VH1 would play Rocky Horror Picture Show. Have you seen Rocky Horror?
Oh yeah.
I haven't seen it.
You have to see it. You have to see it.
Let's do the time warp again.
So I remember watching it, and like there comes Tim Curry in this, like he's got makeup, but he's got like a man body, but he's wearing this like lingerie, and he's like the way, just everything about his vibe, I was like, oh my God, I love that. But I couldn't register it as like I was being like turned on at whatever age I was at, like what that was. You know what I mean? And I knew that I shouldn't be, like, if my parents come home, I got to turn Rocky Horror off. Like I'm not supposed to be watching Rocky Horror. Like I knew I'm not supposed to be watching this, but like now I'm like, well, that makes a lot of sense. Like in hindsight, it makes a lot of sense that that was the beginning. Maybe that was you know how they do those jokes, like what was your sexual awakening, and maybe your son's was Aladdin. Mine may have been Frankenfurter.
That's funny. Kate, that's your assignment. You've got to watch Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Watch it right now.
It's a cult classic. I have one more video I want to show you guys. I was naive to think we could do this in an hour, but I know time is going and we should wrap up pretty quick.
Part twos can always happen.
I was just going to say, if you both are willing, I think that we've covered just the tip of the iceberg because there's so much more to discuss. And you two are such brilliant, not only moms, but humans. And I admire both of you greatly for the way that you have handled the situation that life has put you in. So kudos to you guys.
I feel the same about you guys, like all the work you're doing. Really like honored to have met you online.
Oh, thank you.
Likewise.
I want to show you this.
Absolutely.
I want to show you this video that maybe shows why kids grow up scarred in the MFMC, as we say, the Mormon Church, or Mother effing Mormon Church.
Oh, I was
yeah, this is interesting. I don't know if you've watched this. Maybe you have. But this breaks my heart every time I see it. Little Savannah, well, I'll just let the video talk for itself.
I'm like already uncomfortable.
I have seen this.
that sound.
Hi,
Oh,
my name is Savannah, and I want to share my testimony with you. I believe I'm a child of heavenly parents. I don't know if they talk to us, but I feel in my heart that they made me, and that they love me. I believe I was made the way I am, all parts of me, by my heavenly parents. They did not mess up when they gave me brown eyes, or when I was born bald. They did not mess up when they gave me freckles, or when they made me to be gay. God loves me just this way, because I believe that he loves all his creations. I do not believe he made me. I do believe he made me this way on purpose. No part of me is a mistake. I do not choose to be this way, and it is not a fad. I cannot make someone else gay, and being around me won't make anyone else this way. I believe that God wants us to treat each other with kindness, even if people are different, especially if they are different. Christ showed us this. I believe that we should just love. I believe I am good. I try my best to be nice to each other and stick up for those that are hurting. I know I'm not a horrible sinner for being who I am. I believe God would tell me if I was wrong. I hope someday to go on dates, go to school dances, hold hands, and to go off to college. I hope to find a partner and have a great job. I hope to get married and have a family. I know these dreams and wishes are good and right. I know I can have all of these things as a lesbian and be happy. I believe that if God is there, he knows I am perfect just the way I am, and would never ask me to live my life alone or with someone I'm not attracted to. He would want me to be happy. I want to be happy. I want to love myself and not feel ashamed for being me. I ask you.
Oh my God.
Rick.
Brothers and sisters, I also want to recognize that we are all children of God. We are loved by our Heavenly Father. I have no doubt the Heavenly Father has made us all unique in different ways. And I'm grateful for all of you that are here today, sons and daughters of God. Thank you all very much. I'm grateful for you guys praying for us.
Do we know what's happened
Here's the rest of it.
to her since then?
And not feel ashamed for being me. I ask that you all pay close attention to what you say. You never know who's listening. I had dreams of going to the temple and getting married, and I was very sad when I found out that would never happen for me. And today I choose to find my joy outside of my old dreams from when I was little. I have new dreams and know my earthly parents and heavenly parents love and accept me just the way I am. Amen.
What a beautiful kid.
Right?
Do we know
How?
who they are now?
No, I would love to find a follow up. But this little child bearing her soul,
Yeah.
and taking the time, that was her handwriting. It wasn't someone dictating to her.
And so
Taking
well
the
spoken,
time.
and so confident, and so brave.
I give her parents props too for raising a child who is that self-assured. I mean, she was wearing a tie.
Yeah.
Parents would need to create a space where she felt safe enough to do that.
Just that. It's like she's wearing a tie. Amazing. Like, which it is in that, but the fact that it has to be, I just have to rage too. Like, number one, these men in front that were blurred out, they were just like hiding their, you know what I mean? Like paying no attention, like drawing all their attention suddenly to their kids and down and like not, and then for these men to ask her to sit down, and the fact that everybody in that building didn't walk the fuck out. I'm sorry, but I do not understand how you can see that happen and stay in the church. At the same time, I get it. I know we all know we were indoctrinated. It's not that easy, but long term, I don't understand how you could be in a situation like that and see that and be like, yeah, I support that. I'm going to stay in that. That's disgusting to me. Like,
it is disgusting.
Unacceptable. It's unconscionable. It is unbelievably damaging. Don't pretend like you care about children. Don't pretend like you care about anybody. You just care about being these men that tell this little kid, like you said, bearing her soul in this very raw way, to go sit down so they can go up and be like, we love everybody. Amen.
Yeah.
That was the worst part, was the whole discounting everything that she just said. She said, I know God loves me for who I am, and we're going to publicly shame you. Sit down right now. We're not going to listen to you. And oh, by the way, God loves everybody.
What we have to say is more
it's like hypocrisy and fineness, and it's maddening. That was maddening.
That's
It-
a why I left moment. You know what I mean? Like, it was too many moments like that where I'm like, I don't know how anybody can. I don't anymore. I had a friend with a transgender kid in the church, and she didn't seem to be planning to leave. And she told me she thought that one day the transgender stuff would be like with Black people in the priesthood, that like they didn't allow it for a while and now they do. And I was like, but you're gonna stay and wait until that happens? And also the church never like said sorry for that, or
Right.
you know what I mean? So you're just like, oh, one day it'll be okay. So you're gonna raise your kid in this church like in the meantime?
right?
No, I don't.
And that was a decade after the civil rights movement. So, and that's like coming after society. And it doesn't look like society is going to become not accepting anytime soon. So it's probably a long time before we ever accept that.
Yeah.
Right.
We got to set up a part 2.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
You know, there's so much more to discuss, but I am so grateful to both of you for being a part of this show. It went beyond my expectations, and I knew it was going to be great. And if nobody else watched this show ever, I know I learned a whole hell of a lot, and I thank you both for that.
I'm really sorry if I over talk. So next time, if you want me to put like tape on my mouth, I can do that.
Samantha, I loved every word you said, so don't even go there. I want people to see more of both of you, and so if, with your permission, I'll put your social links in the description. Okay, I know that if you'd like to both tell us what you do on a social media level, I know, Kate, that you've got a couple of active channels going, and Samantha, your TikTok is supreme. Can you both tell us about those, and I'll be sure and include the links, or any projects you have coming up.
Yeah, I'll go first because it sounds like mine might be shorter. I'm just Morm with those who mormed, both at TikTok and Instagram. Morm spelled like MORM, not like Morn. And that name is it's my greatest accomplishment, that name. And I do drop little hints about this. I am writing a horror novel that takes place in the Mormon temple. So eventually I'll get that published. Yeah, I'm really excited. I really, really hope it's going to get published one day. It's a while out. I'm nearing the end of a first draft, and I think the ex-Mormon community will eat it up, and if you like horror, and the Mormon community will not.
Well, I can't wait, because you made me cut it out last time that it was taking place.
I know. I'm just afraid. I'm so afraid of somebody stealing the idea, because it's just such a supreme idea that I have. But I feel like I didn't give any real information out about it. Like, you don't know where I'm going with it. But I will be looking for test readers, and I do have an NDA for people to sign. So if you guys like horror and you're willing to sign an NDA, I am looking for test readers.
I'm a good reader.
I love it.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, that's it. That's me.
How about you, Kate?
No, I always say that when I die, I want to be cremated, and so that my ashes can be put in the vents of a temple, and then they will really be visited by the dead, right? That will be
But how will they resurrect you? If your ashes, how are you going to get resurrected?
No idea. Yeah. They'll figure that out in the next life.
That's true. In the millennium. Yeah.
Maybe sprinkle your ashes in the baptismal font in the temple, the baptisms for the dead. Sprinkle your ashes in there.
Then you'll be covered. In case the church is true, you'll be baptized double.
Yeah. Right.
Awesome. I think that'd be great, right? Because I think I do need to be rebaptized. Anyhow, I'm Midlife Exmo on TikTok, and also I do a podcast with my co-host Erica called An Exmo and an Evermo Walk Into a Bar. And Samantha, we would love to have you on as a guest. I think that
I'm in.
Like you and Erica really have got that equally fiery energy that I think would be really good. So
okay, are you guys on like Apple Podcast?
Yeah, we're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. We're on YouTube. Anywhere you find your podcast, you can find us.
Exmo. I'm looking it up right now. Exmo and Nevermo.
Oh, I love the show. It is an incredible show. And so many of my friends have been on your show. And I'm thinking,
yeah,
when we saw that video of the little girl trying to bear her testimony, and they came and told her to sit down, and I think you said that's rude. And I wanted to say, so fucking rude.
Be honest.
If you watch your channel, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Was that a thing?
One of her shorts.
Yeah.
Can we drink like on your podcast? Can I drink live?
We have to drink on our podcast.
Okay,
that's our thing. And we like every we get like a business expense is the beverages that we consume. Because
do you go to the bar and do it?
Bar.
Do you actually film it in a bar?
We started at a bar, and then we were a little too risque for them, so we went to a coffee shop instead. So, but they can serve alcohol at this coffee shop. So.
I wonder if I can film it at a bar.
We would love to
Sure.
have you film it at a bar. 'Cause you're out of state, so yes, we would love to have you on, and then we'll be with our beverages. You have your beverages,
It would be
and then we
really
always
noisy,
end with the
though.
cheers.
It would be too noisy, I think,
Well,
at a bar.
that's why we would film it. We used to film it in the middle of the day, or we still do. We do it in the middle of the day where
I'll
it's
just
not
do it
too
at home,
noisy.
and
Well,
Yes, make sure you have a little
I'm
something.
when that show occurs,
Awesome.
I want front row seats because that's going to be a good one. And I have
And
to
we
say,
need to get you
speaking
on
of-
too, Ray.
Oh,
We're gonna
that'd
get
be
you
an
on.
honor.
I love this idea.
Yeah, we love.
That'd be an honor.
I did a couple of drunk Mormon histories. Do you remember? Did you guys ever see that? Do you remember Drunk
Yes.
Histories, that
No.
show?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I did a couple of those where I would have like a topic, and then we'd get like do a live on TikTok and get drunk and like tell Mormon history. It didn't go very far, but I do think it could. So I think that's enough. We could do a special episode where we all get drunk and go
We
over like just like beginning of the church to like 1844. Just that.
Oh my God, yes. Well, that's actually, and that's totally something that we have planned in the future. So yes, we'd love to have
That'd
you
be
on. Oh my God. Yes.
I chuckled when Samantha said, "Can I cuss?" It's like, "Oh, you don't know Kate and Randy." And it was very polite. actually,
Yeah.
but,
We have to. We're morally obligated to as ex-Mormons, really.
right.
Right.
Speaking of drinking, I just wanted to point this out that my drinking cup seems to match the shirt I'm wearing today.
Ooh.
How richly bizarre is that? And you'll never know what's in here. Anyway, guys, thank you so much. You have been so enlightening today and so informational and so delightful. And I can't thank you enough. And I look forward to a part 2. First.
I'm in. It's worth series. I'm in. Yeah.
Oh, good. Yes, please. Okay. Have a wonderful, wonderful Thanksgiving. You both deserve it. And the best wishes for you and your continued successful families and your continued successful mothering of these kiddos. In my opinion, that's the most godlike thing that you could ever do. So thank you so much. Have a great Thanksgiving holiday. And we'll see you next time on Momo Nomo, the home of the happy apostate.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thanks, Randy.
Bye.